Hello guys, and I wanted to just go over a little bit about SCUM and the new loot that you can change. As you can see, we're going to be doing a couple export commands. There is export default item spawning parameters, and if you read here after typing this command, it's going to put it into this folder for you, which is going to be right here, loot. Then we're going to go to items, and then default. And there is our parameters right there. What the item ID is, you can find the item ID. If you're in single player, you can just type hashtag and start typing it and it'll provide you the item ID. One thing I also forgot to mention is that you can use a program called SCUM Admin Helper in single player. This is very helpful and is going to be able to provide you with easier access to finding out what exactly each item looks like and which code you need to enter to use it. SCUM Admin Helper. There'll be a link in the description below. Here's an example of some item IDs, weapon _M82A1_black. Now, if we want to remove it, this is what we do. Disable for spawning. This means the item will not spawn in the game. Now, allowed locations right here, coastal, continental, and mountain, simply just means that they will spawn in specific areas of the map. Having all three of these means it'll spawn all over the map. Now, there's these two things, which is cooldown per squad member, minimum, maximum. This simply means that after the item has been picked up, you cannot loot another one, pretty much just putting a cap on it, and this in hours. So for instance, we look up key card, there's this key card, which is for the kill box card, and then there's bunker key cards level 0, 1, and 0, 2. As you can see, there's a 1, a 1, and 1, and 1 next to the cooldown per squad member, minimum, maximum, meaning that there is a time of 1 hour that you cannot obtain another key card. If you don't like this, and let's say you die in a bunker and you can't get back to your stuff, I'd recommend making this change. 0, 0, 0, 0. That will just mean that there is no cooldown, meaning you can find multiple cards. So right now it is squad limited, meaning if you're in a squad of 10 people, you can only get 1 card. It's not per person limited, it's squad limited. So this one here, I wouldn't really touch these because in each area you're going to have a different setting for these. So if you find it in a World War II bunker, it's going to be more damaged and so on and so forth. It's pretty much just saying if this spot here is going to override every other place it'll look for. So in your other files essentially. By setting this to false, it's going to ignore these two values and it's not going to make any impact on anything else. But let's say you wanted to have something always spawn with 100% usage. You could turn that to true, so it would override it. And having it to 0, meaning it'll always spawn at 100%. And then the random usage pretty much just says it can go between 0 and to the number you put here. So at 0 and 0, obviously you know is 0, but if we set it to 50, that means it could randomly use between 0 to 50. Now that you've edited these, let's say we've had these little key cards, we want everyone to be able to get them, we've set it to 0, we're good, you can save it. If there's something you really don't like in the game that just bugs you every time you see it, you can just turn that to true and turn it off, and you'll never see it again. Once you've edited the parameters to be exactly how you want it, you're going to have to go and create an override folder. Has to be spelt correctly. That's how you do it. Go into the default, copy your parameters, and go back to override and paste it in there. That way, every time it's loaded, the override is going to be loaded afterwards, so the changes that are made are going to be into effect. Then when you go in and export the current, it's going to provide you with the list of the override. So every time you change something, or make sure you change it and have an override folder. Otherwise, your changes won't take into effect. Now that's just the loot parameters. What about the default item spawner preset? Once you use this command, export default item spawner presets, it's going to send it here, as it says in single player. It's going to go to the same spot, just a little bit different with the Windows No Editor, loot, spawners, and presets. So spawners and presets. You're going to get 3 folders: default, current, and override. So if you're editing something, you're going to want to put an override so it loads the last, meaning that's going to be the one that's active. Current simply pulls what you already have. Default pulls what the developers have set. The easiest way I've found to modify things in the loot nodes is simply go into the default file, then find the one you want to edit. So in this case, let's grab depository, copy it, go back to override, and then paste it. Then make your changes. Otherwise, you might leave it in the default and then it's not going to work. So make sure you put it into the override folder. Otherwise, anything you do isn't going to make any difference. Once you're done, save it and move on to the next one. So we're just going to go into default here and look at some of these things. Now, you're probably wondering, what the heck There's a lot of files here that are literally just names that you might not 100% understand. You could go in and change the puppets, specific puppets to drop certain things. You can, like, whatever you want to do. The choice is up to you. The special underscore packages, so we can find in here, all these right here, these special cargo drops are anything you can get from a cargo drop, right? So this is all the stuff you can get from a cargo drop all the way down to here. So these are all the packages you can get. If you want to add something into a cargo drop or remove a cargo drop, you can do that here. So for example, there's 2 drops here. A special package from a cargo drop that drops an AK-15 add-on and one that drops the actual AK-15. Let's say you wanted it to be the whole thing, right? You could go and open both of them up, and it's super simple. Copy all these fixed items, put a comma, and then paste them all there. Now that you have this, you can copy it back and go over to this other one and just paste it there. Meaning each time you open either an AK-15 add-ons or the AK-15, you're going to get the full kit. When you got one weapon, you got the ammo for it as well. Because there's nothing worse than having a gun when you don't have any ammo for it. These are the kind of things you can customize in here. If you don't like having key cards, you could simply add or remove this entirely, or you could make it something else. So let's just say if this is a kill box, for instance, you want to encourage people to do the kill box. So why don't we give them a screwdriver, right? And then why don't we give them some advanced lockpicks? I don't know, maybe 2 of them. And then why don't we give them some medical gloves for the zappers? Or heck, even let's add a gas mask. So now when you get a key card, you're going to get a screwdriver, a couple of advanced lockpicks, medical gloves, and a gas mask. Meaning that every time it's going to encourage people to go and do a kill box. And why not we add one more thing? Why don't we add wire cutters? That way, it's everything they need. So if you want to have these kits ready to go, like let's just say you're trying to encourage people to get out there and do kill boxes in your server, or maybe you're a person who is not that comfortable with them, set this up, encourage yourself to go ahead and do a kill box. That's like super helpful. That is very beneficial. Obviously, if this was the PvP server, it would be a little broken, but it's honestly, it's up to you about how you want to do it. Literally, the customization is entirely up to you. These are just options that I'm running through in my head here. Now, there's other things, and all these ones are for the kill boxes. And like I said, they've given us all the power in the world. Now, if we look down here under Special Packages Vault Examine, these are all of the lock-picked containers in the abandoned bunkers. There's a lot, and a lot of people weren't happy with the changes that they made, or a lot of people didn't like them. You can just change them. As it is in the kill boxes, there's also an AK-15 ammo and an AK-15 weapon. Like I said, if you want to change it very simply, you just go into this one, copy, add a comma, paste it, take the whole shebang there, post it there. That way, both now have the exact same item. So if you roll the vault ammo pack or you roll the gun, it's going to give you the whole thing. They've lowered the amount of lockers you can open. There's only 2 of each type in the armories instead of 4. Let's just say you don't remember which ones you've done and you're like, ah shit, which ones did I edit? Copy the whole thing into override. Boom, just do it. Just copy the whole thing into override. That way you're not worrying that you didn't get the right file, or just make note of the ones you edit. That way you can move the right ones over. Now the next command we're going to go over is exporting the built-in nodes. So pretty simple, export default loot tree. There's also export current loot tree. The current will be changes that you've made. Default is going to be what the developers have set up. So once you do the command, it's going to go to the same location as before, and you're going to be able to find files like this. So in default here, look at that. Boom, all the files are right there. Now, this means that you can change the loot in any of these places for all over the map. Doesn't just mean one spot. In a gas station, for instance. If we open this up, we'll see that there is quite a few different items you can obtain, right? We know that military quivers and backpacks are something that or can be found here, but maybe you want it to be a little more common. As you can see, the things that fall under the category of backpacks are from here to here, which is waste bags, military quiver, a knife sheath, a pistol holster, a hiking backpack, and then obviously the plain backpacks, which are the TC backpack and the regular blue or whatever variation backpack there is. If you want hiking backpacks to spawn here more than the other ones, you could just do that, or you could just delete that. But honestly, these are very rare. This is rare. You're going to hit this table more frequently. And let's just say you want to change that to the sporran bag. You could do that. And therefore that will spawn the sporran bag. Like the plain backpacks with hiking backpacks, you're more likely going to find a backpack here now on a common basis. If you want it to be even more common, you could change this from very rare to rare, or you could set it to maybe uncommon. it's up to you. That's an example of what you can do in specific locations. But what if you wanted to add something like a screwdriver to make it a little less difficult? I personally don't like changing the screwdriver spawns that much because they are very good and they are supposed to be very rare. Maybe instead of extremely rare, you want it to be very rare, which is going to increase the chances by about double. Still going to be very low. You're not going to find these all the time, but it's going to be a little more frequent. Once you do all the changes you want, like I said, there's a ton you can change. In the Chinese stores, everyone hates the spears, right? So like these spears, for instance, if we just get rid of the spears part, and there we go. All that it can drop now is swords. No more spears. Problem solved. All of the power in your fingertips. If you want to put screwdrivers back in the depositories, right here. For example, we're going to start with one of these. I'm going to go to name. I'm going to go to screwdriver. Go down here to rarity. I'm going to set it to extremely rare. I would highly recommend doing extremely rare because it's pretty easy to get. I'll be honest, it's pretty easy to get. And then put a common there. Only thing that I recommend doing is changing tools from common to uncommon. The reason is it is the only table that is common, meaning it is the most frequently hit table. So you will actually get these a lot more commonly if it's not on uncommon. Changing it to uncommon should fix that issue for you. And if you're a server owner and want to change a little bit more about, because these items sell for a lot of money, change them to rare. Dial locks. Everyone hates dial locks right now when you're raiding. Just change them to rare. Make them less common, you know? Make it harder for people to obtain these things. If you're like me and absolutely hate memory module, the gray memory modules, you can just go back, way back here to the parameters that we talked about before in items, custom parameters. We're going to look up memory module level 1. Just put this to true, meaning that you cannot get a level 1 memory module anymore. They are gone from the game. Bye-bye. You can do this for every single preset, and you can get into a little bit more of the fancier stuff, which is setting by zones. But that is an advanced thing, and I don't really want to get into that too much, but essentially there's a command for exporting zones, and you can do a specific zone based on A1, A2, A3, A4, so on and so forth. The only thing is you cannot do this in single player. And right here it says, all of the zones exporting should be done in multiplayer. In single player, there is a certain distance loaded around your prisoner, so you won't be able to export effectively. Let's just say you're playing the game and you're trying to loot something, but you don't know what you're looting. Set, should, print, examine, spawner presets will tell you what you're looting. It'll also print a log of it. So single player, the log goes there, multiplayer goes there. Now, once you're done everything, you don't need to shut the game down. You don't need to do any of that. Just type this command. Doing this is going to reset all of the loot. Be aware that players who have just looted something can go back and loot it again. Make sure you know somebody isn't in the armory when you're doing this, because then they can obtain a lot of extra stuff. They're not going to have to unlock it again. It's just going to be able to search it again and get items. So just be careful when you're doing it on multiplayer. But remember, my suggestion is do the exports on multiplayer for the zones, or if you're just doing very basic, just do it in single player. Get it set up to how you want to do it, and then transfer it over to multiplayer. Because if you do it the other way around, you might screw something up. I encourage you guys to try this stuff out, figure out what works for you, what your server, what your community, what you as a player want, and then just emphasize on that.
If any of you guys are interested, I have my own PvE server called Gamers United. It is, by searching Palfy, you can find it on the server list, and it is welcome to all.
Hopefully this video helped you guys out, and if you did like it, remember, hit that thumbs up button, it helps. And subscribe if you haven't. If you want to see a new thing, just comment down below what it is and we can go from there. So until next time, have a great day.